Sangham Sharanam Gacchami. Buddham Sharanam Gacchami. Dhammam Sharanam Gacchami. Sangham Sharanam Gacchami. Buddham Sharanam Gacchami. Dhammam Sharanam Gacchami. Sangham Sharanam Gacchami. Buddham Sharanam Gacchami. Dhammam Sharanam Gacchami. Sangham Sharanam Gacchami. Buddham Sharanam Gacchami. Dhammam Sharanam Gacchami. Sangham Sharanam Gacchami. Buddham Sharanam Gacchami. Dhammam Sharanam Gacchami. Sangham Sharanam Gacchami. Dumba Jumden de Jin Java da Jumba Yandaba Zobe Sanje Rigba da Shabzu Demba Devara Java Jigden Jemba Jevo Deve Kalu Jurva Lana Meva Lada Menamje Dumba Sanje Jumden de Bejawa Jaja Duba La Jaze Lo Judo Jazo Che Wo Dumba Jumden de Dijin Jawa Dajumba Yandaba Zobe Sanje Rigwa Dan Shabsu Temba Tewara Sheba Jigden Chemba Kibun duve kalu gyurwa lana meba lada menamje domba sanje jumden de pejawa shaja duba la jaze lo chudu jazo je ho domba jumden de deshin shewa Jajumba yandaba zobe zanje rigwa dan shabsu tenpa dewara sheba jikden chenpa jibu dewe kalu gyurwa lana meba lada menamje domba zanje jumden de penjawa shaja tuba la chaze lo chudu jabsu che ho sanje chudan soji shonama la chanju badu tane jabsu che dagi chushi jibe sonama je drola penje sanje drubara sho sanje chudan soji shonama la chanju badu tane jabsu che dāgi chūshī jībē dzōna māñjī drōla bēnshē sāñjī drōbārā shō sāñjī chūdān sōjī chōna mālā chāñchū bādō tāni jāsō chī dāgi chūshī jībē dzōna māñjī drōla bēnshē sāñjī drōbārā shō Good morning, everyone. I hope you had a good holiday, good Thanksgiving dinner. And I'm sure some of you have cancelled your plan for today just to be here. So thank you very much. And before we start, I wanted to let you know that these days my internet connection for some reason is not stable. So if you lose me or if there is an interruption, don't go away. Wait for a while because Ken will let me know and then I will reconnect. So just wait for maybe 5 minutes or if you can 10 minutes, and then even after 10 minutes of wait, if you don't see anything, nothing happening, then yeah, that means I failed to reconnect. So let's hope this one goes without interruption. So today is the final class of this semester. It's the last class of 2021. Imagine that. We are already at the end of 2021. Time really flies. So let's try to summarize. It's kind of a recap. So the 37 practices of a Bodhisattva or 37 practices of Bodhisattvas can be summarized in 3 headings. The first part is the preliminary, and then the actual training in the bodhicitta or the spirit of enlightenment. And then once we have trained, or once we have taken the bodhisattva vows, once we have made the pledge, there are certain actions that we must do and certain actions that we need to abide by or avoid. So that's called the training in the precepts. So all the 37 practices is comprised of these, or is made up of these three parts. So let's see whether we can kind of decipher this. So the preliminaries. The verse 1 to verse 1 to verse 10. That's all about preliminary. Before we start to cultivate the actual bodhicitta, we need to develop these insights, or we need to cultivate the understanding of the preliminaries. Without the preliminaries, there is no way we will be able to progress or ascend to this level, the actual cultivation of bodhicitta. So it begins with what you call the contemplating on the importance of this precious human rebirth. So as you are aware that everywhere, any practice, especially Lamrim practice, always begins with this. So this is so important. When we are able to see the preciousness of our birth, this life, what we can achieve, what it is worth for, then then this intention or determination to put it to good use arises. It is like a rebate or coupon. So when we received a coupon or a rebate, let's say if it's just $200 worth of that coupon, we will treasure it, don't we? First thing we will do is what it can do, and then we will check the expiry date. When should I use it? By when should I mean, how long is this valid? Once we have all that information, then we will act upon it. Some of us may even put a reminder in our calendar, the expiry date, so that we will not waste this coupon. So that's just a coupon. It's only $200. But we treasure it so much. We don't want to lose it. We don't want to waste it. We will make sure that we utilize it before the expiry date. But when it comes to this precious human rebirth, do we do the same? No. First of all, we don't realize the value of this life, what this body can actually achieve, what we can achieve through this body. As with the coupon, this body also has an expiry date. One day it will expire. The coupon, at least we know when it will expire. But this body, we don't know. It can expire any time, any moment. Today is valid, tomorrow maybe it's not valid. But we don't really, contemplate on the worthiness, the preciousness. I have quoted this before. Nyega rigna kinar do Tokme. Tenjin tongna temen dawa pang. Chiwa samna chimar do tap chits. So this, under the preliminary, as we recall, it begins with the contemplation on the importance, the great importance of leisure and opportunity, as well as how difficult it is to attain. And then it goes on to talk about being mindful of the impermanent nature of our life. It can end any minute. So here it says, Nyega rigna kinar totame. When we realize how rare it is to obtain again, then we would make sure that we fully utilize this. If you are given access, let's say if you subscribe to something, and if it is valid for 1 week, don't we try to utilize the most out of it? Let's say if I have an access to a library for 1 day, I would try to download as many books as possible. So that's, you realize that it is so rare and you have only that window. So our life also have that window, but we don't know when the window will close. So when we realize that, the rarity of difficult in achieving it again, if it is easy to obtain again, then of course we won't feel that bad. We can tell ourselves, it's okay, I can waste this time because I can get it the next time, and then next time I can use it. But there's no guarantee that we can get this again. We can obtain this kind of rebirth again. And then it says, Tenjin tongna temen dawa pangs. And when we realize how much we can achieve from this, then we will really try to gain that advantage, gain that benefit. At the moment, we don't realize that. When we listen to teachings, yes, okay, yeah, this is this, that, but we don't have that conviction. So in order to gain conviction, to reach that level of faith, of conviction, we need to reflect again and again. And then we feel that, yeah, I have no moments to lose. And that will propel us every moment to squeeze the essence, to take the essence from this life. We will not be occupied or distracted by worldly things. We would then realize that it is such a short-term pursuit, just pursuing for this life's goals are really, really like a child's decision. Most of the childs fail to see the long-term benefits. They only see what is just obvious to them. And then it says, Chiwa samna chimar dotapche. Then when we reflect on the impermanence nature of our life, that our life can end any time, that will propel us to prepare for the next life. We know that our our consciousness continues on the journey, despite our body being cremated or buried or disintegrated. But our consciousness still moves on. And that next birth, we have to go on to the next life. And we don't have the choice. We don't have the freedom to choose our life. It is all decided by our actions, our karma. For that reason, once we have that kind of realization, we will prepare. If we are planning to travel somewhere else, we will prepare, don't we? We will first book our flights. We will make our accommodation arrangements for our accommodation, and we will even plan what to do there. So if traveling to another city, if we need to plan and prepare, then why not prepare for that future life's journey? So when you have this realization of that, my life can end any moment, that realization is so powerful that you will never think of this life's, preparing for this life. At the moment, our primary concern is for this life. The next life becomes a secondary. That shows that we lack that insight. I mentioned before when I was in Atlanta, when I was in a university, I know that I won't be staying there permanently. Because of that realization, I didn't buy. What I have was really minimum, only the essentials. When I see nice things, and even if it is relatively cheap, especially let's say something on sale, the first thing comes to my mind is, why? I'm not living here. I'm not going to live here. I will be moving somewhere else. Why should I buy that? And then once I moved here, when I was in my apartment here in Minnesota, at that time, my visa was pending. When I moved into the apartment, the things that I bought are really cheap ones because I wasn't sure whether or not my visa will be approved. So I dare not buy a good, let's say, good quality furnitures. Those who have visited my house, you may remember, even the coffee table, if you put weight on it, it will shake. It's the cheapest one that I bought. Even the soba, it looks quite okay, but that was the cheapest one. All because I know that there's no guarantee, there's no certainty that I will be staying there for long. So this logic, this reasoning should apply to this impermanent nature of our life. When we have this realization that death can come any moment, we don't have the, that certainty that we will live for at least, let's say, 10 years. Nobody can guarantee that. Nobody can say for sure that I will live for another 10 years. If we really have that kind of understanding, that kind of realization at a convention, at a level of conviction, then nothing can deter us from practicing Dharma. Nothing can deter us from preparing for the next life. So that's why these preliminaries are so important. The more stable and stronger our understanding of these preliminaries, the better and firmer our understanding and realizations of the subsequent topics, such as the Bodhicitta. So if we don't give deeper contemplation on these topics, there is a danger that we will say, oh, these are not important, these are preliminary practices. I want to do the actual practice. I don't care about the preliminary ones. But that's not the case. It is like the building foundation of a building. If the foundation of a building is not firm and not stable, you cannot build many stories on it. It can topple. You may try to build, but it may not last long. First of all, you may not even be able to build on it because it's not stable. There is no real foundation there. So it is so important that we give attention to the preliminary practices as well. It is as important as the actual practice. Then, training in the spirit of enlightenment. So that comes next. So that begins from verse 11 to verse 24. So I'm not going to go through each of these because we have already covered, so it won't be a summary then. So the 11th verse, it begins, all sufferings comes from the wish for your own happiness. Perfect Buddhas are born from the thought to help others. Therefore, exchange your own happiness for the suffering of others. This is the practice of Bodhisattvas. So now when it comes to cultivating bodhicitta, so this is the conventional bodhicitta. So when it comes to cultivating bodhicitta, there are two types, conventional bodhicitta and the ultimate bodhicitta. So conventional bodhicitta is the one that we normally understand as bodhicitta, which is this aspiration, this wish to achieve enlightenment so that we can liberate sentient beings, so that we can provide lasting happiness to all sentient beings. So this is really propelled by the strong this aspiration to really liberate Mother Sentient beings, because we see that just like us, they are undergoing all kinds of sufferings. And we want to liberate them. We want to bring them to the state where they can experience lasting happiness. But at the moment, we do not have that ability. We cannot even liberate one sentient being, let alone all sentient beings. So when do we get that ability? When would we be able to do so? Only when we become Buddha ourselves. So that's why we are saying that we want to help other sentient beings. But for that, I need to first achieve enlightenment. So that aspiration to achieve enlightenment, not for your sake, but for the sake of others. So that is what is called the conventional bodhicitta. Ultimate bodhicitta is the wisdom realizing emptiness that is propelled by bodhicitta. Just having this aspiration to achieve enlightenment for the sake of sentient beings will not get us there. It's an aspiration. But what would really get us to the state of Buddhahood is when we are able to sever the root cause, which is the self-grasping. So that can be only achieved by something which is directly contradictory to that apprehension, which is the wisdom realizing emptiness. So we need to develop that. So that's why we have these two go hand in hand, two go in pair, conventional bodhicitta and ultimate bodhicitta. So here, when it comes to cultivating conventional bodhicitta, it is about exchanging oneself with others. So here when we say exchange, we are not exchanging physically. We are exchanging that attitude which we have. So our normal attitude is to cherish ourselves, to ignore others. But here it's saying that that has been the root cause of our suffering. That has been the one that has trapped us in this samsara for many eons. As long as we do not get rid of, eradicate this self-cherishing attitude, there is no way we can become Buddha. And more, more importantly, that happiness is that we seek, and suffering is that we try to avoid. But we are ignorant that self-cherishing is the cause, root cause of all the problems. So he says, all sufferings come from the wish for your own happiness. From our own experience, in this life, we know that it is all about ourselves. Self-interest always comes first. It supersedes everything. Even when we engage in good deeds, there is always at the back of our mind, what is in for me? Yes, I can come to your charity, but what is in for me? I can help you with this, but what is in for me? What will I get? I want to help you, but I have something else to do, something else to attend to. So from our own experience, that how prominent, how dominant this self-cherishing attitude is within us, we can infer, we can deduce from this evidence that we must have been the same, if not worse, in our past lives. Because of that, we are still here. Look at other Buddhas. They were one time like us, cherishing ourselves and ignoring or neglecting others. But they realized that. They saw the fault in that. And they saw that self-cherishing is not the causes that results in happiness. That is the cause of our destruction. Whereas cherishing others is really the cause to achieve lasting happiness. And with that understanding, Buddha have pursued in that endeavor. And look at them, where they are now. And look at us, where we are. So that's the difference. Perfect Buddhas are born from the thought to help others. One time they are like us, very selfish, filled with all these afflictions. But now they are the ones who are free of all the afflictions, all the flaws, who have blossomed with all the qualities that need to be actualized. The only difference is that they engage in the practice of exchanging oneself with others, cherishing others instead of cherishing oneself, and neglecting oneself instead of others. So that's how to develop. So in order to do that, it says, "Tamje kenbe zawa tsongni la tu." The root, it says, let me rephrase. The omniscient mind to become Buddha is as dependent on the two accumulation of the two merits. Tsongni ji zawa chanju ji semla tu. The accumulation of two merits is again dependent on bodhicitta. Chanju jisem jizawa nyingji latu. And again, the bodhicitta, arising of bodhicitta, is dependent on, contingent on compassion. So without compassion, we won't even that thought to alleviate the suffering of others would not arise. We have compassion for ourselves. We have compassion for that small group, what we call our family, our friends. When a family members of ours is in distraught or is undergoing some suffering, we have that compassion, especially our children. When we see our child suffering, we have that strong compassion. But that kind of compassion is not enough. We need to extend that kind of compassion to all sentient beings. So how can we do that? That has to come from contemplating on the kindness rendered by other people, other sentient beings, how they have been. Of course, another method is to understanding that they had been once our mother, that they had been once our father, that they had been once our uncle or our aunt, or whoever you have this sense of gratitude. But for some people that is a bit difficult. Then the easiest ways, the Shantideva's way or method, is to contemplate on the kindness. Just like right now, you are listening to my talk. Who enabled that? Many people are responsible for this. From your computer, from your house, from your electricity. Without all this, first you need those devices, electronic device, whatever you are using, a laptop, iPad, iPhone, whatever gadget you are using. It did not appear out of nowhere. Some people have worked day and night. And not only that, the materials they have used are also produced by another group of people. And when everything is assembled and ready, the delivery guys, recently I ordered something, Amazon, and I was tracking. And around 8 in the morning, it says it was out for delivery. And when did it arrive? Around, I think it's 7:30 in the evening. So that poor delivery guy, he was out from the morning. And I don't know whether my delivery was his last stop. He might even have more deliveries to do. And recently we know that weather is not pleasant. Of course, inside it is pleasant. But when you go out, it was so cold. But that person has been going from door to door delivering our package. And maybe Thanksgivings you may have received gifts. And how many people have played role in that? And then Christmas is coming. How many people are playing role in either receiving your own gift or delivering your gift to someone whom you are sending? So that's how we should engender that kind of endearment. When you are able to develop this sense of endearment, the kind of endearment, the kind of sense of endearment that we have for our loved ones, if we are able to develop that kind of endearment to all sentient beings, including whom we consider as our enemies, then this great compassion will arise whenever we think of others. This wish to alleviate their suffering will automatically arise. And then wanting to do something that I have the responsibility. I will take the responsibility on my shoulder to liberate them. And therefore, I need to achieve enlightenment. And therefore, I need to engage in practices. If you just keep it there at the aspirational level, then yeah, nothing can happen. It's just aspiration. But it should be followed by this determination that I will do whatever it takes to achieve enlightenment. So that's what it is all about. That's what it is all about, these 37 practices of Bodhisattva. First is about cultivating that aspiration, and then once you have that, engaging in the practices or actions that leads or that fulfills that aspiration. And that leads to, and then when we embark on these practices, we encounter so many challenges. It's not easy. If it were easy peasy job, then of course everybody would have achieved enlightenment. Nobody says that it is easy. It requires effort. It requires perseverance. It requires patience. So that's why under the heading of this training in the spirit of enlightenment, it talks about how to take adversities, how to transform adversities into the path. Basically, it is like transforming obstacles into opportunities. How can we transform? How can we transform our negative circumstances into a positive one? The common phrase is, if life gives you a lemon, make lemonade, isn't it? That's exactly what it is about. So we have covered, we have gone through various circumstances, various incidences, and then it teaches us to adopt certain attitudes. So I'm not going to repeat that, but this is more like a summary of that, the gist of this one. So this is called the fourfold practice. I have covered this before, but no harm in repeating here. So first is, when we encounter adversities, such as sickness, if we are fallen down with sickness, or something unpleasant happens. So there are 4 ways to deal with it. That's why it's called fourfold practices. First is accumulation of merits. When we are faced with difficulties, instead of seeing it as something negative, we should look at it as a messenger, relaying a message that, hey, you need to really accumulate merit. Since you don't enjoy experiencing this kind of experience, and since you want to experience pleasant experiences, you need to accumulate merits. So remember that, where is it? Let me just look at this. Let me look for that. Look at that. This one. Kenyin kewe shenyin yins. Parje kejur kumayin. Tunyin tikbe chakshin yin. Miga chungdu mata angs. This is by one of the Kadamba masters. Kenyin kewe shenyin yins. Kenyin means unfavorable conditions or circumstances. So it says these unfavorable, unpleasant circumstances are, it says, our spiritual teacher. Why? At the surface, it doesn't make sense. How can an adversity be our spiritual teacher? So he says, because we learn when we experience difficulty, then we will look for causes. We will look for remedy. That's why many come to center. Unfortunately, many people come to center because they went through some difficulty. They have tried everything in terms of, let's say, terminal illness. So there are people before this tragedy had no interest in spiritual things, but after trying everything, then they come to Dharma centers, and then they find the answer there. Especially, okay, I think no need to go there. So that's why it's these kind of jolt us from our comfort zone and provide us that kind of what is the word, the enlightenment there. So if we want to avoid such unfavorable conditions, then we need to put an end to the causes and conditions that give rise to this. If you have the causes there, causes, conditions there, no way you can avoid the result from arising. That's the basic law of what you call causality. That's the nature. So when we have that kind of realization, then it will propel us to stop committing or cultivating causes that give rise to suffering, and instead engage in cultivating causes, conditions that give rise to happiness, pleasant experiences. So that's why they are like the spiritual teacher. And then it's a parje kejur kumayins. Likewise, when we encounter these unfavorable circumstances, it propels us to do more Dharma practices, to do more virtue. And also, when we experience this, if we know how to think, it is good, because in a way, it is like exhausting our negative karmas. Remember, I mentioned before that there are two ways to exhaust the karma. One way is through purification, engage in purification practice, so that you can exhaust that karma, negative karma, and you will never experience the result. Even if you experience, it will be what you call the lessened light one. The other one to exhaust is to actually experience. So when we experience, okay, so I must have committed negative actions that warrants this kind of experience. So now that I'm experiencing, in a way, it's good. It's exhausting my that particular negative karma. So it's an accumulation of merits. Instead of instead of having this negative attitude, we should see in a positive light that, okay, this is like I'm being signaled. The signal is sent that I need to do more merits. And then another way is, since I don't want to experience this, the only way is to engage in purification practice. I need to exhaust these negative karmas. So in a way, we can think that, we can tell ourselves that in a way, I'm lucky because there is a way to exhaust this karma, which is through purification practice. And then making offerings to the malevolent forces. So sometimes it is mainly Asian countries or even in Tibetan, we have this something called spirit harms. Sometimes they are unexplained illness or problems, which you go to the doctors, they cannot find anything, but the person is going through some kind of a sickness or some unpleasant experiences. But these, we believe that caused by this what is called the malevolent forces or the spirit harm. So when this happens, is make offerings. Making offerings to these ones and thank them for reminding us the importance of cultivating virtue and restricting our actions in committing negative actions. Because you experienced this in the past. You experience because you have committed the negative karma. So now you are actually making another being commit something negative. Because of your own karma, that spirit has to cause harm. So instead of getting angry or all this, we need to think, we need to generate compassion towards that spirit and make offerings and thank them for reminding me that I need to do more virtue. And also kind of feeling sorry that because of my karma that you have to now endure with this negative karma, and make prayers that they no longer will experience whatever they may experience in the future, be experienced upon me. Do the Tonglen practice. And also making offerings to the protectors to request for their assistance in our successful Dhamma practice and urge them to end our sickness and obstacles if that's the best for our practice. If not, give us more, give me more. So the prayer that we are supposed to recite when we think this is this one. Can we handle this? It says, in Tibetan it says, Ta nawa lena, nawa chinjilab tusue. So that one, you can make these prayers to the three jewels, to your guru, to Buddhas, Bodhisattvas, and also to protectors, that If being sick is the best, please make me ill. If being cured is the best, please restore my health. If being dead is best, please make me die. Can we handle that? If long life is best, please prolong my life. If shorter life is best, please shorten my life. May all enjoy the fortune of enlightenment. So when you have real conviction or faith in three jewels, you will entrust everything to three jewels. And you can make these prayers wholeheartedly. But if your faith in the three jewels is some questionable, is not that solid, then when you will be a bit hesitant and you will be a bit scared to make this prayer wholeheartedly. So this is what is called in Tibetan retok chebas. That means that we entrust everything to your guru and three jewels. So whatever best is for me, please decide for me. I don't care. So when bad thing happens, you are comforted. Otherwise, we have this lingering feeling that whether I will be cured. Let's say if you are going through a prolonged illness, so whether I will be cured, whether my health will be restored or not, I will die or not, there's this kind of thing. But when you can make this kind of prayers, that does not linger. Because you have this faith that three jewels will decide whatever is best for me. And I am willing to accept that. So you see, less worry, less concern. Then you can focus your full attention on Dharma practice. There is nothing interfering with your practice, with your meditation. So these are 4 ways to cope with adversities, with difficulty, with challenges. If we are able to do this, I think nothing can stop us. Nothing can discourage us from our practices. No matter what kind of challenges we face, we can overcome them. And then the final part is about training in the precepts. So now that you have developed Bodhicitta, so what are the practices? So we went through each of those practices. And basically it is all about when you have that, what you call that, there's a phrase, what you call that, the north of compass, is it? Something, you have a guiding principle. So guiding principle is, if anything that is motivated by self-interest, self-cherishing attitude, is no for Bodhisattva practices. If anything that is propelled by self-cherishing attitude, is yay, you have to do it. So that's the guiding principle. That's, in a way, it's quite simple, isn't it? But the problem is we don't realize that. We think that what we are doing is really, that we think that there's no self-interest. But there's always self-interest. For one day, try to have chat without using the word I and my, and see how far you can get. Especially when you meet with new people. Can you have a long conversation without using I and my? And when you examine or analyze your conversation with somebody else, there is always self-interest. Even the way you introduce, you always want to portray yourself something better, something greater than what you are not. So here, just as a sample here, this is the final verse. I think that day the translation was a bit awkward, so I amended to this, so it may not be accurate, but this sounds, this is more compatible with the Tibetan version. Virtues from endeavoring in this way, that whatever we have all the training, dedicating it to remove the sufferings of limited beings with the wisdom or purity of the three spheres, is the practice of Bodhisattva. So that was the dedication. So that's the summary of 35 of the 35 practices of Bodhisattvas. So now the question is, how can we simplify that? Is there a way to simplify all that? So I thought that maybe we can use this. This is in the 7-point mind training. So it says that, what is the word? Menga nyingbo dorduna, menga nyingbo dorduba tonga tada chaura chas. Which means in English, in brief, the essence of instruction is this: apply yourself to the 5 powers. So if we are able to apply these 5 powers in our daily life, then I think it is very meaningful. And I think that kind of encapsulates the whole Bodhisattva's practice. So here it says, the first one is, it's called lifetime practice in summary. Apply yourself to the 5 powers. The power of propelling intention. In Tibetan it's called Pembe-top. So this is this making resolve, this resolving never to part from the 2 Bodhicittas. So generally, from now to end of life, I will never be separated from these 2 Bodhicittas. Particularly today, I think it is best to try one day at a time. So every day, every morning, when we wake up, make this determination that today I will never part from the 2 Bodhicittas. I will always think and cultivate and develop 3 Bodhicittas, the 2 Bodhicittas, the conventional and ultimate Bodhicittas. This is that making that resolve. It is so important. Pembe top is called this propelling intention. This is so important. So when you have that, there is a chance or likelihood that we may, have that direction. But when we don't have that intention, then we will not even think about it. It will never even occur to us. So from the morning, make this determination. And during the daytime, every now and then, whatever you practice, from morning when you wake up, today I will try my best to really develop the two bodhicittas. So on this, it's not really on this, but normally when His Holiness gives teachings, His Holiness always touches on the two bodhicittas. So lately His Holiness has been advising that we do this practice on daily basis, which is that in the Tantra there's a section, so I won't go into that, but His Holiness says that we can use this here as well. So which is, from the morning, spend some time contemplating on bodhicitta. First, try to generate compassion. In order to do that, we need to really understand the suffering nature, what kind of suffering the sentient beings go through. So when we talked about sentient beings experiencing suffering, everybody going through suffering, we are not talking about the physical pain or the obvious suffering, which is the suffering of suffering. Suffering of suffering, of course, everybody can understand. But if we base our compassion only on suffering of suffering, then yeah, not all sentient beings are going through that. When we look at a number of people who are having a good time, like having a party, when you look at them, they are not going through what you call the suffering of suffering. So there's no way that we can be able to develop compassion because we don't perceive their suffering. In order to engender compassion, we need to perceive the suffering that the other person is going through. So we need to have understanding of these three types of sufferings. Whatever seemingly happiness or pleasant experience is in nature suffering, because at the end it turns into suffering. So suffering of change. Then pervasive suffering, or what is called the conditioned suffering. So we need to first contemplate on ourselves. We need to spend some time on how we are in samsara, how we are experiencing these three types of suffering. And then we, we direct that onto other sentient beings. So when you have this understanding that how we are in the nature of suffering, how we are bombarded, we are always going through suffering, then you can say that just like me, all the sentient beings are undergoing these experiences. Of course, it helps to focus on the actual suffering, like people suffering in hospitals and all that. That can help, but we need to have a deeper understanding of the suffering. So anyway, once you have some realization about your own suffering nature, then show that light onto all sentient beings, and then try to develop that compassion. With compassion, so you make your mind that I will work towards liberating these sentient beings, these mother sentient beings. And for that, I will work towards achieving enlightenment. So that's the conventional bodhicitta. So that bodhicitta, after you spend some time meditating on this, visualize, His Holiness says that, visualize that as a disc, moon disc, a white moon disc at the heart, at your heart. So it is actually a bodhicitta, but in a form of a moon disc. So the more you meditate on the bodhicitta, the more, the stronger your bodhicitta becomes. You can visualize that white disk of moon also becoming brighter and brighter. So it's visually is very good. And then His Holiness says that on top of that, so now the sentient beings and all this, where is this sentient being? Where is this I, which says, I want to achieve enlightenment? Where is this I? So then reflect on the empty nature of I, empty nature of sentient beings, empty nature of even enlightenment. And that wisdom, that insight into emptiness, visualize that in the form of Vajra. You know how the Vajra looks like. And place that on the moon disk. So these two becomes inseparable. So throughout the day, every now and then, think of this. Go back to that visualizing. Go back to that image that you have on your heart. And every now and then when you get chance, when you remember to do, think and meditate more and make this brighter and brighter. And always have this resolve that I will never ever stop cultivating these two mindset. So that's the power of propelling intention. So power of propelling intention is not enough. We need to have power of acquaintance, cultivating the true bodhicitta at all times. We cannot just leave it at aspirational level. We need to cultivate. So that's why throughout the day, try to make it stronger and stronger. So those who have not cultivated the bodhicitta, then make it arise within you. If you, those of you who have already, bodhicitta has already arisen in you, then try to make it stronger, increase that, make it bigger and stronger and more powerful, and let not it diminish. And then power of the white seeds is cultivating virtue to facilitate the development of the two bodhicittas. So just simply saying that, oh, I want to develop bodhicitta, I want to cultivate bodhicitta, won't result in actual arising of the two bodhicittas. We need to cultivate the causes and conditions. We need to engage in the practice of, we need to engage in practices that will purify our negativities and also that will amass our merits so that we can be able to cultivate, we can be able to develop this. Remember when we talk about the six preliminary practices, how important it is to do purification and to accumulate. Without these two, no matter how much effort we put in, it will be very, first of all, it may not be possible, it may not arise. Even there is a progress, it will be very, very slow. Because first you need to remove all that obstacles. So one of the main obstacles, of course, is the heavy karma, heavy negative karma. So for that, we need to engage in like 6 preliminary practices to purify all that heavy negative karma. It's like removing the shield. It's removing the curtain so that you can see through clearly. So this is what it means by the power of the white seed. So we do any practices so that we will be able to develop. Whatever practice we do, it is for cultivating the two bodhicittas. It is towards developing the bodhicitta. And then the power of aspirational prayer. Then make prayers at the end of each virtue. Every virtue you accumulate, dedicate towards the cultivation, successful cultivation of the two bodhicittas. So this is how we become inseparable with the practice of the training or the practice of the two bodhicittas. Like everything is bundled into the cultivation of bodhicittas, two bodhicittas. So that's the main practice. All Lojong practice. Did I leave some? Oh, okay. The power of eradication. So this power of eradication is what is the main obstacles that hinders developing that bodhicitta? It is the self-grasping. Because of self-grasping, there arises the self-cherishing attitude. And also, as mentioned for the conventional bodhicitta, it is mainly to eradicate that self-grasping. So for both bodhicittas, for the conventional bodhicitta especially, we need to do that. And the ultimate bodhicitta is to counter this. So what we are trying to eradicate is eradicating the self-grasping. So when you go about doing things, pause and see whether there is a role of this self-cherishing attitude, and examine how self-grasping arises, how self-cherishing arises, and understand that, see that, and then make a determination. At that very time, if you are able to put an end or apply a break, that's great. If not, make a strong determination that next time I will not give a chance to this. In Lojong practices, it says that you watch yourself all the time. You monitor your mind. And when an attachment arises, of course, the goal is to stop there and then. And when you realize this, that attachment is arising, so you put a stop to that and also do the Tonglen practice. There are many sentient beings who are, the attachment arises in them. And because of that, they will suffer. There is always consequences. There is always a ramification. So when you notice that attachment arises in you, not only you stop your own attachment, but also do the Tonglen practice that may all the sentient beings who are going, how to put it, who may suffer in the future because of arising attachment, may all these negative consequences be experienced on me. Me, especially if you have difficulty saying me, experience on my self-grasping, self-cherishing attitude. And then try to bring all that suffering onto your self-cherishing attitude. And then send out all the happiness and the goodness, the causes of happiness, all the virtues. Likewise, when it comes to ignorance, when it comes to aversion, anger, hatred, jealousy, we have to do all that. An actual Tonglen practice is that you have to let the Tonglen ride on your breathing. When you breathe in, take in others' suffering. When you breathe out, send out all the happiness and joy and the causes of happiness and joy to others. Like Geshe Langri Tamba, he said that he has not wasted not even one round of his breath. Always has had practice Tonglen. We may not be able to do that all the time, but every now and then we should practice, we should try. Hopefully it can become our habit. So give it a go. Try it. For the first, as I always say that, for the first few days, there will be more times you forget than you remember. But that's okay. That's natural. But if you continue, if you persist, if you are consistent, then maybe you will see some progress. And that is good. It will encourage us. And it is so good to remind ourselves to be from waking up, whatever, every now and then about these two bodhicittas. And when you have that visual thing, that visualization, it is helpful. Helpful. We spend some time on bodhicitta, on meditating all this, and then imagine that light becoming brighter and brighter. And then think on emptiness, and then that vajra also becoming brighter and brighter. And every now and then, as frequently as possible, try to recharge that. So that way, we will be able to spend most of our time in that kind of mindset, that kind of virtuous mind. It is so beneficial. It is so beneficial. Okay, I think our time is up. And so we have come to the end of this semester's class. And I think we will start the next semester in January. So until then, stay safe and Happy New Year. Thank you. Are we still connected? Dagi jinye sabe jawa de dendan dowa gunla gangben da jebara jizun losan taba yi tembe nyingbo rendo zeje sho. Jambe bawe jedara jamba da kundu sambu teyan dejen do deda kungi jesu talo je. Gyawa deda damje rabdo ngo duzun shebe gyawa damje je ngowa kanla chodo ngaba dagi gewe zawa digun ja sambo chuji rabdo ngowara yis. The two bodhicittas. What are the two bodhicittas? The two bodhicittas, conventional bodhicitta and ultimate bodhicitta. Okay, thank you. I'm now going to end.